The richest man in the world bought 2.5 million acres of Amazon rainforest. He built roads, schools, a hospital, a golf course. He spent the equivalent of $358 million and produced not one single drop of what he came for. He never even visited. I know. I watched him fail from the inside. I am Fordlandia, and this is my story. Deep in the heart of the Amazon, 300 kilometers from the nearest city, accessible only by river, I exist. I have American-style houses, white picket fences, a water tower, a golf course, a hospital, a cinema. I was not built by Brazil. I was built by the richest man in the world. A man who believed he could tame this jungle, reshape it in his own image, make it American. He was wrong. And this is the story of the greatest act of arrogance I have ever witnessed. To understand what happened to me, you must first understand Henry Ford. In 1927, Henry Ford was not merely rich. He was the richest man on earth. His Model T automobile had changed the world. His assembly line had changed how humans worked. His factories in Detroit were the beating industrial heart of the most powerful nation on the planet. But Henry Ford had a problem. Rubber. Every car needs rubber, for tires, for hoses, for gaskets, for valves. And in 1927, 3/4 of all rubber imported into the United States was used by the automobile industry. The British controlled the rubber. Through vast plantations in Southeast Asia, they set the prices. They controlled the supply. They held Henry Ford by his throat. Henry Ford did not accept being held by the throat, so he looked at a map. He looked at Brazil. He looked at the Amazon, birthplace of the rubber trees itself. He looked at me. And he made a decision that would consume the next 17 years of his life, cost him the equivalent of $358 million in today's money, and produce from my soil. Not even one single drop of rubber. Not one. In 1927, Ford negotiated a deal with the Brazilian government. He received 2.5 million acres of my land, an area nearly twice the size of the state of Delaware, in exchange for 9% of profits. But Ford did not just want a rubber plantation. He wanted something much larger, much more ambitious, much more dangerous. He wanted to build America inside me. He envisioned a city of 10,000 people living within my boundaries, wide paved roads cutting through my soil, white clapboard houses with neat gardens replacing my trees, schools, a modern hospital, a cinema, a swimming pool, a golf course, a library, a power plant. And clocks set to Detroit time. Not my time, not Brazilian time, Detroit time. In December 1928, Ford's ships arrived on my river, the Tapajos, loaded with everything from doorknobs to locomotives, from prefabricated houses to ice-making machines. Workers began burning and clearing my forest. Thousands of acres of ancient Amazon jungle gone to make room for Henry Ford's vision. By 1930, my most iconic structure was complete. A water tower, the tallest structure in the entire Amazon, standing as a beacon of Ford's civilizing project. From a distance, I looked like a Midwestern American town. From close up, everything was wrong. The problems began before the first rubber tree was planted in my soil. Ford had not consulted a single botanist, not one agricultural expert, not one person who understood what I was, what I had always been. His managers, factory-trained men from Michigan, knew assembly lines. They knew conveyor belts. They knew Detroit winters. They knew nothing about me. The first catastrophic mistake, my rubber trees. In my wild natural state, rubber trees grow far apart from each other. spread across my forest floor, separated by hundreds of feet. This spacing is not accidental. It is the tree's natural defense against disease and insects. When one tree falls ill, the infection cannot easily spread through me. Ford's men planted the trees close together, in dense industrial rows, the way American corn grows. I am not an American cornfield. Leaf blight arrived almost immediately, racing from tree to tree through the dense rows I had been forced to carry. Sauva ants came next, then lacebugs, red spiders, leaf caterpillars. My rubber trees, in their natural homeland, were dying by the thousands. But that was not all I had to say to Henry Ford. My terrain fought back. My land was hilly and rocky. During the rainy season, my floodwaters rose and swallowed his machinery. During the dry season, my droughts cracked his earth. The heavy equipment he used left deep ruts in my soft soil, which collected stagnant water, which became breeding grounds for malaria-carrying mosquitoes. His workers began dying, not from battle, not from disaster, from me. And still, Henry Ford insisted the project could work. Henry Ford, who never once set foot inside me, was certain he understood me better than I understood myself. But the greatest battle fought inside me was not between Ford and nature. It was between Ford and the people who lived within me. The Brazilian workers. Ford brought to my streets were accustomed to working before sunrise and after sunset, avoiding the brutal midday heat I carry in my soil and air. They had done this for generations. It was wisdom born from centuries of living with me. Ford's managers forced them to work American 9-to-5 shifts in the full heat of my midday Amazon sun. Ford's personal beliefs ran deep. He was a teetotaler. He believed in healthy eating. He imposed on the Brazilian workers living inside me a diet of oatmeal, brown rice, canned peaches, and whole wheat bread. The workers, accustomed to their own food, their own culture, their own rhythms, were forced to eat American cafeteria food inside my walls, wear American clothing on my streets, carry American-style name tags through my air, attend American square dancing evenings in my buildings, sit through poetry readings, in English, a language most of them did not speak. Alcohol was banned entirely within me, even though it was completely legal in Brazil. Workers who wanted a drink were forced to paddle down my river to a nearby island, which locals had named, with perfect Brazilian wit, the Island of Innocence. Then, in December 1930, inside the cafeteria, the breaking point arrived. The plantation manager decided the workers should line up cafeteria style for their food instead of being served at their tables. One Brazilian worker stood up inside my walls and said, "We are not dogs to be ordered by the company to eat this way." The revolt, known as the Quebra Panelas, the breaking of the pans, exploded through every corner of me. Workers smashed my pots, shattered my windows, overturned my trucks, destroyed my machinery worth thousands of dollars, cut my telegraph wires. American managers fled through my streets into the surrounding jungle. Some scrambled to my docks and moved boats to the center of my river, out of reach of the rioters. The Brazilian army arrived 3 days later. I had spoken, and I had spoken in Portuguese. After the riot, Ford tried again. He hired a plant pathologist. He moved his operations 80 kilometers down my river to a new settlement called Belterra. He planted disease-resistant rubber trees imported from the Far East. By 1942, after 14 years of effort, the commercial tapping of rubber finally began. Ford produced 750 tons of latex that year. He needed 38,000 tons. And then, as if the universe itself had decided to deliver the final verdict on everything Ford had tried to do to me. Scientists in 1945 perfected synthetic rubber. Overnight, natural rubber became unnecessary. The entire reason I existed dissolved in a laboratory, thousands of miles away from my river. Henry Ford died in 1947. He never visited me, never stood on my soil, never touched a single rubber tree growing from my earth. His grandson, Henry Ford II, sold me back to the Brazilian government. The price? $244,200. For a project that had cost, in today's money, $358 million. And the final verdict, delivered by a simple report years later. Not one drop of latex from Fordlandia ever made it into a Ford car. Not one drop from me. Ever. Today, roughly 2,000 people live inside me. They live in Ford's original white clapboard houses, still standing within my boundaries after nearly a century. They drink water still pumped by my water tower, the tallest structure in the entire Amazon when it was built, now weathered and rusting, but still giving water to my people. My golf course has disappeared, swallowed back into me by the jungle I always was. My hospital, once the most modern medical facility in the entire Amazon, was gutted by fire in 2012 and looted for its copper and lead. Today, my residents travel 6 hours by boat to reach proper medical care. My cinema sits empty. My sawmill rusts. My factory buildings stand with broken windows, trees growing through their floors, the Amazon slowly, patiently, reclaiming every inch of what was taken from it. Children in school uniforms kick footballs near the overgrown remains of my golf course. Families live in villas once built for American executives. My local historian, who is also the school principal, walks through the abandoned warehouses and says, "There are no ghosts here." Ghosts only exist in rich people's castles. The only ghost in Fordlandia is Henry Ford himself, since he never actually visited the place that still bears his name. I have thought about Henry Ford for a long time. He was not a villain. He genuinely believed he was bringing progress, bringing civilization, bringing a better life to the workers who came to live inside me. But he made the oldest mistake in human history. He believed that what worked in one place would work everywhere, that the rules of Detroit applied inside me, that I could be ordered like a factory floor, that the culture of my people could be replaced like a machine part, that I, ancient, complex, alive in ways science is still discovering, could be tamed by a man with enough money and enough certainty. I disagreed. I did not fight Ford with violence. I fought him the only way I know how. I simply continued being myself and waited. I learned something from watching Henry Ford fail inside me. The most powerful force on earth is not money. It is not machinery. It is not ambition. It is patience. I have patience that no human lifespan can measure, and eventually, everything humans build inside me returns to me. My water tower still stands. Ford's houses still shelter my families. My Tapajos River still flows past my docks, where his ships once arrived, full of certainty and machinery and American dreams. And my jungle grows back. One vine at a time, one root at a time, one century at a time. I am Fordlandia, the place that swallowed an empire and kept growing. I have many more stories to tell. If you wish to listen, subscribe. Earth Speaks every week.